Grassroots sub-grant process. And this is funding that we're getting from the North Carolina Arts Council. So a lot of what we talk about with our sub-grant process is actually dictated by the state. So they have money that's passed down from the legislature to local arts councils, and then we in turn grant out to local organizations here in the county.
Can I just say something? We have to apply for it. It's not given to us.
Right. So the Warren County Arts Council applies to the state each year to get the allocated amount that Warren County is eligible for. So we in turn fill out our own application. And then, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but when final reports are turned in from the sub-grantees, then we, as the Warren County Arts Council, have to turn around and submit a final report for our grant. So we're in it just like you are if you get grant application rewarded. So the Grassroots Art Program, it's a partnership, like I was saying, between local arts councils and the state arts council. All 100 counties in North Carolina receive program funds from the state. And depending on the population size, local arts councils will distribute about 50% of the grassroots funds to different arts organizations through a competitive grant process. So this is, I think last year we were able to award most everything, if not everything, that was applied for, but that's not necessarily always going to be the case. So eligibility, while nonprofit status is preferred, 501c3, you do not have to be a 501c3. However, organizations have to have been in operation for at least 1 year, so that definitely applies to y'all in this room. All organizations have to be located in Warren County and carry out projects in Warren County, and the projects have to take place between July 1 and June 15th. So you guys are used to that because it's your fiscal year, and we're on the same fiscal year. It is a matching requirement. So for every dollar you apply for, you have to match. There are some logo and credit line requirements according to guidelines. So if you're funded, you'll need to attend a mandatory orientation session, and we'll go over in more detail. The state is pretty particular about how they want you to put their logo, the state's logo, on marketing materials or website, things like that. They want to see it done. And again, there are reporting requirements. So at the end of your project, whatever it is, you will have to submit a final report to the Warren County Arts Council.
Can I say something?
And hold on one second. And then they also want you to send thank you letters to your state legislature since these are state dollars. And you were also supposed to submit a no overdue tax form to us as well.
Right, they want the legislators to know that their money is being spent wisely. That's where they want the logo, as well as invitations to them. Not just a thank you, but in the event that you do something, that they get an invitation. And so the legislators see that their money is being spent in a way that is benefiting the people. And then they like the exposure. Like if they come, then it's beneficial.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. There are certain things that this grant will fund and things that the grant will not fund, which is what I was saying to you earlier. And all of this information, by the way, is on the state's website, and which you can link to through our website, so I'll make sure you guys have that info later. But this grant funds program expenses for projects of high artistic merit. So this includes artist fees and travel, space rental, marketing, advertising, costume sets, props, music, and equipment rental. It will also cover some limited operating expenses for arts organizations. So that has applied. Lakeland has had that question before in the past. As an arts organization, they could potentially pay some of their operating costs, not just their programmatic costs. What it won't fund, and this is where I think some of the confusion tends to lie. I know it has with myself, but this grant is not meant to fund individual artists, nor is it meant to commission pieces of art, right? So if an organization comes and they want to, let's just throw this one out since I know it's relevant, put a mural up, that's that's what it won't fund, and that's what I was saying to you earlier. There's got to be some sort of program component that goes with it, some sort of educational component that goes with it, not just, okay, we're going to pay an artist to do a piece of artwork and that's it. And I think that's where, I know that's where I was confused the first time I started, because the existence of art seems important in and of itself, but that's not what this grant is intended for. It doesn't fund art supplies, it doesn't fund fundraising events or expenses, food or beverages, prizes, tuition or scholarships, school band activities or equipment, the purchase of artwork, internal programs for schools, colleges, universities, or libraries, or programs with religious content. And so there is an application. You can get this application off of our local website or off the state website. It's not particularly long, but it does ask for some organizational information. So your basic information, your contact info, your EIN number. Again, I don't believe that you're required to be a 501c3. And then when it says applicant race, that's where we've had some confusion before, because how can an organization have a race? But they literally want, if I am the person writing the application, I would put white. Even though if I were writing it for, the Arts Council, that would be an organization. Then, of course, you have to give a brief description of your organization, your mission, what your board and staff looks like, any current programs that you have related to the arts. So if you have, an artist coming out, Dickie, working with kids, I know you've done some of that with Parks and Rec, that would be an example of something you would include in that. They want to see income and expense statements, so if you would just attach some of your past 3 budget cycles for your income and expenses, or excuse me, past 2, and then your projected for next year. And then it just goes into asking you what your project is going to look like. The grant amount that you request, so if you're requesting $1,000, you would put that here, keeping in mind that you need to match $1,000. So your total project cost of $2,000 in this example would only be funded by $1,000 of the grant request. You say when your project is going to start and when it's going to end. It might be a one-day project, it might be a month-long project, that's up to you. And then you walk through the description. What's the title of it? What are the goals you want to achieve? Describe, who you think is going to participate, who you want to participate. Is it something geared towards youth? Is it geared towards young adults? Is it geared towards seniors? Or is it, community-wide? Say the location where it will take place. Describe the types of activities. And if you already know which artist you're going to select to fund, if there is an artist involved, you also explain who that is. If you don't know yet, then you talk a little bit about your process to choose that artist. You talk about your marketing and how you will evaluate the success of your project at the end. I just walked through all of that. So again, what do you hope people in those goals, what will participants get from the experience? What will they learn? How will it impact the community? We want to see that you've thought through why your project is important, why we need to fund it, what you hope folks will get to related to the arts. They want to see, and you'll see this in the final report, pretty specific demographics for your audience. So if it's countywide, it might reflect something similar to countywide demographics. Get as specific as you can, but obviously we know that certain things are out of our control, and so your final report will reflect those actual numbers. And then it asks you to break down your project budget. I know this is pretty small, but this is on the application. Will you be spending money for personnel? Will you be spending money to pay an artist to help with the program? So you'll list your expenses at the top, and then you'll go through if you predict any income. So, you know, are you going to be charging an admission fee? Are you going to be charging, you know, something else through your program? Are you going to have a matching grant that you can be, you know, factored in as revenue through your project budget as well? So for your evaluation of your application, what we do is we get together a panel of community members that aren't on the Arts Council, though there might be some Arts Council members infused in there. And then they look at the applications that we've received. They look at the quality of the grant that you've written, and they review everything. You need to submit a complete application, make sure everything is answered, double check it. We've had definitely some numbers that didn't match up, and it's very confusing for the panel because we don't know, you know, if your grant request doesn't match up with your project budget or your matching funds, and you're not there to explain it, it makes it difficult for the panel. So things that we look at: what's the artistic quality of the proposed project? What is the community impact of the project? Does it seem like your organization has the ability to plan and implement the project? What's the stability and fiscal responsibility of the organization? And then the state asks that we assign these priorities to projects, meaning if for some reason we have more applications than we have available funds, because we have a certain amount that the state gives to us, and that's $9,000 and some, I think, is the anticipated. So if we get $11,000 in request this year, something isn't going to get funded at all or in part. So we'll prioritize, first priority goes to arts organizations that are not already receiving funds through the North Carolina Arts Council. Second priority goes to arts learning and arts and education programs, and third priority goes to civic, municipal, or community-based organizations that are providing arts experiences for the greater community. And so if you get funded, you'll need to enter into a contractual agreement with the Warren County Arts Council. Again, you have to submit those no overdue tax forms. You need to complete your final report. If you don't complete your final report, that does jeopardize your funding for next year. Again, you have to use the North Carolina State Arts Council's logo, and you have to show that you did it. So if you create a flyer, we're going to need you to turn in a copy of that flyer with your final report. We have the ability to say we'll give you the payment in installments, but that's never how we've done it before. We've just cut a check. We are going to ask that folks come to a mandatory grant session before they get their check in hand. So if you do get awarded a grant, you have to sit down with us and go through the final report and make sure you understand the logo requirements. And just keep us updated on the progress. So if something changes and you can't use all your funds, let us know, because we'll need to figure out how to get those back and figure out how we're going to spend that money down. And no late reports. If your report is late, it makes our report late, and it could jeopardize us for next year as well. So if you have any questions or if you need help, feel free to reach out to us at the Warren County Arts Council at gmail.com. That's our email there. Just let me know. But I think the main thing that I hope folks walk away with is that it's not just about commissioning a piece of art. It is about programming that goes along with it. Any questions from y'all? I know I'll visit with you in just a minute.
Another reason we want you to come on to get, if you're granted the grant money itself, is it gives us a chance to make sure you understand next steps, as well as we get the benefit of having a picture taken, so the community sees that the Arts Council is funneling, you know, and has for the last 20 years, you know, $9,000 or $10,000 a year that wouldn't be going through this county.
Yeah, and I was going to show you, I'm not quite sure, this tends to happen sometimes, and I don't want to have to poke around with my settings, quite honestly. But behind the tax office, the sculpture that's there that Michael Lane did, that was funded with Grassroots funding. And while there is a piece of art that lasts from that part of that programming was the installation of that piece happened on Public Arts Day, and so the public actually helped install that structure. And then we had some activities, some quilt crafting activities for the kids, and the artists spoke, so there was a little bit of a lecture and Q&A session. So that's an example of how Grassroots funding has been used in the county in the past. It's funded Halawassaponi Drum Circle at powwows. It's funded performances at Lakeland Cultural Arts Center. It helped fund a mural project with Working Landscapes, and their component to that was the artist came back out and did a lecture and talked about his process, and then they did some mural painting inside the facility. So if you want to check out photos and stuff, it's on our Facebook, but just let us know if you have any questions.
All right.
Anything else from you, Vicki?
And the deadline for the grant is when? July 15th?
Is that what I said?
17th?
June 30th?
You think I remember off the top of my head, but
June 15th?
you got it, I believe me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and start working on your applications, and yes, the deadline, oh wait, no, applications must be received no later than June 30th. So,
June 30th.
yeah, you can email them or you can send them to our post office box. And something that we say on our website, if you're, we're anticipating getting an allocation of $9,893 from the state. That could change. That's our anticipated allocation. You can submit an application for $9,893. We don't have a maximum or minimum grant, but I would not advise that, right? So as we say on the website that, funding requests under $4,000 will likely be more competitive because it gives the Arts Council a chance to fund not just one project, but multiple projects to try and spread that money throughout the county. But, if we get 5 applications and 2 of them are really only viable, then it doesn't mean we'll fund all 5 either. So that goes back to that competitive grant process.
And for the last 3 years, we've had the North Carolina Arts Council representative on the committee with us, making sure that what it is viable. That's not how we want to spend our money. Because then they have to go back.
Right.
And so everything's about, making sure that it's what the grant is designed to do. So we're narrowing in on understanding it now.
Okay,
All right.
cool. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate taking some time.